So it's important to be courageous if you want to grow in this world, and a growth mindset requires courage, but we need to realize that courage is not separable from vulnerability. So be vulnerable so you can be courageous and grow in this world. Kia ora, hi, I'm Craig Johns, high performance leadership expert, the CEO and managing partner of Speakers Institute Corporate, and the founder of Gravity of Leadership. On today's episode of the Gravity of Leadership series, we're talking about courage requires vulnerability. You cannot be courageous without first being vulnerable. Now, Brené Brown, I'm sure many of you know her, has a really good definition of what vulnerability is. So vulnerability equals risk plus uncertainty plus emotional exposure. So your level of vulnerability is determined by how much risk are you willing to take? How much uncertainty can you handle? And what is the emotional exposure you are willing to put yourself out there for in this world? Now, for some people, their vulnerability level might be really low. For others who might like to jump off cliffs and fly a parachute or something similar to that, or skydiving, their vulnerability level might be really, really high in that type of setting because they're willing to take big risks. But to a certain degree, they know the certainty level of what's going to happen, and they're aware of their emotional exposure. So even people that look like daredevils have actually spent quite a bit of time working out the risk and uncertainty and emotional exposure they're going to apply to whatever they're doing. Now, for someone doing a skydive for the first time versus someone who's doing it as a solo person all the time, the vulnerability level is quite different because they have calculated the risk, calculated the uncertainty, and have been able to minimize the emotional exposure. But for them to go bigger, to grow, to evolve, they will need to then be a little bit more courageous in maybe what they do when they've jumped out of the plane. So what type of formation might they do? What type of place are they going to skydive over? There might be things like winds and currents and heat and cold. So how are they dealing with those different risks and uncertainties that they may not have exposed them to before? So it's important to be courageous if you want to grow in this world, and a growth mindset requires courage, but we need to realize that courage is not separable from vulnerability. So be vulnerable so you can be courageous and grow in this world. Remember, it's important to create a gravitational pull rather than a gravitational push as a leader. What is your gravity of leadership today? Ka kite anō, I'll see you soon.